We are at the Battle of Brandywine site. My 5 times great-grandfather, Owen London, who was with the 7th Virginia Continental Army, would have camped right here during the Battle of Brandywine. And behind me is the Quaker home of Gideon Gilpin. He, as a Quaker, did not believe in war, but until the Hessian and the British soldiers actually plundered his farm, he changed his mind and signed up for the Patriot cause.
One of the difficult things for farmers in the 18th century is as armies marched hundreds of miles overland to seize their next objective, they needed food. And British and Hessian foraging parties found the Gilpin farmstead, took the vegetables, the livestock, anything that they could eat to sustain their army as they marched towards Philadelphia.
We are at the Birmingham Friends Meeting House, and right over here to the north is where General Howe and the British troops crossed the creek, came here and surprised General Washington. Once Washington realized he was outmaneuvered, he gathered his troops to protect their flank.
Is there something else you're searching for?
Here at the Battle of Brandywine, there's a veritable who's who of the American Revolution on command on both sides. On the American side, you have the likes of George Washington, Lafayette, Casimir Pulaski is here fighting for the Americans. Conversely, on the British side, you have William Howe, Lord Cornwallis, Patrick Ferguson, who would make a name for himself down at Kings Mountain in North Carolina, is also here. So as the British continue to push north through this field, they met the American forces there at the top of Birmingham Hill. There were tens of thousands of troops engaged here. It was one of the largest and even one of the longest battles of the American Revolution. It lasted well over 12 hours. Washington was here to protect Philadelphia. The British objective, their goal was to capture the capital of the infant United States, which was Philadelphia, and they were here trying to block it. The Americans were unsuccessful when the British turned their flank, at which point Washington orders General Nathaniel Greene to act as a rear guard to sort of check the British advance so that Washington and the Continental Army can escape to the north in an orderly retreat to preserve the army.
For those of you not familiar with Marquis de Lafayette, he was 19 years old when he came here from France. He had a lust for fighting and he wanted to fight for the American cause, and here at Brandywine is where he had his first taste of battle, and he got shot in the thigh, and this is his memorial.
And there's a poem here that says, "Should days of trial be forgot, although those days have fled, can we neglect the sacred spot where patriot heroes bled?" So the Birmingham Friends Meeting House, it was a Quaker church. Washington established this church as a field hospital for his troops here at the Battle of Brandywine. After the British pushed the Americans off of this position, the British took over the church, the hospital operation, and used it for the same purpose. So lots of American and lots of British soldiers and even Hessian soldiers would have died within the walls of this church and are then buried in a mass grave here in the Peace Garden.
Let's go look in the window then.
Tell me something, boy. Aren't you tired trying to fill
And the
that?
mass grave is right there.
Or do you need more? Ain't it hard keeping it so hardcore?
So after the defeat here at Brandywine, the Continental Army made a successful escape, marched north into Valley Forge. The army that would walk into Valley Forge in the fall, winter of 1777 was not the same Continental Army that came out of Valley Forge in the spring of 1778.
We are here at Valley Forge, where my 5 times great-grandfather, Owen London, was a Continental soldier. We are inside the redoubt here at Valley Forge that Lafayette had built. So the story of my 5 times great-granddad, Owen London, was he signed up in March of 77 in Gloucester, Virginia, at the courthouse to join the Continental Army. He had a son who was 2 years old at the time. We know he fought at Brandywine, which our army lost. And then here at Valley Forge is where Washington brought his troops for the winter. And the plan was to train them, make them better, stronger, able to fight the British military, the most powerful military in the world.
Tell me something, girl. Are you happy in this modern world? Or do you need more? Is there something else you're searching for?
So we're standing inside one of the log huts that the Continental Army constructed when they marched in here into Valley Forge. So as you can imagine, 12,000 soldiers marching in here in the winter of 1777. They marched in freezing rain that quickly turned into heavy snows. The tents that they threw up, that they had when they got here, really weren't enough. So shortly after making encampment here, they started cutting down all the trees for miles around here, thousands and thousands of trees, to create these log structures that would have a fireplace for warmth so that they could crowd in here and really survive the winter at Valley Forge.
Aren't you tired trying to fill that void?
So the big field behind me is what was known as the Grand Parade. Frederick von Steuben showed up in the spring of 1778 and really transformed the Continental Army from a army of volunteers that maybe wasn't well disciplined and well drilled into one that was really a professional army that knew the drill, that knew the discipline. So where did General Washington stay while the army was encamped here at Valley Forge? He did not stay in any log cabins that were constructed, but instead rented this house.
Now we're gonna go there, to Washington's house.
These are the original floors and windows. If you could just flash back, 1777. And to think who was in this house.
This site is so huge, you actually drive your car around it. It's what, 10 miles? They said
10 miles.
I'm off the deep end, watch as I dive in. I'll never meet the ground. Crash through the surface where they can't